because I was projecting. Yep, I have a degree saying I know how to do that. Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting of the Civil Rights Board to order at 7:02 p.m., February 1st, 2023. Let's begin with a roll call, please.
I also would like to say good evening, and I'm going to say Happy New Year's to you all, since I didn't see you prior to 2023. Director Harrington.
Present.
Director Corwin.
Present.
Director Lukeman.
Excused.
Director Beach.
Present.
Director Calderon.
Present.
Director Brown.
Excused.
Director LaGrone.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Director Harrington speaking. May I please entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting?
This is Director Beach, so moved.
And a second.
This is Director Corwin. I second that.
All of those in favor of adopting the agenda for tonight's meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the agenda for tonight's meeting has been adopted. Moving on to the approval of the last meeting's minutes from December. May I please entertain a motion to approve the December minutes?
This is Director Corwin. I motion to approve the December minutes.
Second.
This is Director Beach, second.
All of those in favor of approving the December minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the meetings for the December meeting are approved. Moving on to public announcements and communications.
There are no public announcements.
Quick question. Could we have a complaint update at this section, please? Thank you.
So this is going to be a combination of 2022 and 2023 since we're so early in the year. So for 2022, we had 8 complaints referred to MDCR, 3 complaints of discrimination based on race, 1 complaint of discrimination based on age, race, and disability, 1 complaint of discrimination based on disability, 1 complaint of discrimination based on police discrimination, 2 complaints of discrimination based on employment. 1 complaint sent to the Fair Housing Center. This was based on denial of Section 8 voucher and other rent subsidy funds. 2 complaints were sent to Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. 3 complaints were sent to our Community Development Office, and that was regarding grass and how tall it was. 1 complaint marked unresponsive, 1 complaint referred to the County Administrator's Office, and 4 complaints are being investigated. 1 complaint based on a rental ad that possibly violates city ordinance, 1 complaint based on discrimination on nationality and race that possibly violates city ordinance, 1 complaint based on wrongful eviction on record that possibly violates city ordinance, 1 complaint based on income discrimination that possibly violates city ordinance. And for 2023, we have 1 complaint being investigated. That complaint was based on rental denial due to a felony charge. 1 complaint dismissed as it did not fall under our ordinance, and 1 complaint is school-based, so that will be referred.
Thank you, Law. Appreciate it. The next item in our agenda is the discussion of the complaint update, so this is a natural segue. Are there any questions, comments, observations from the update that we just received?
This is Director Beach. May I make a request? Could we get just a summary, like in our materials moving forward of the complaint update, just like the breakout of the grid, just so I could, it's a lot to write down real quick. And like, and then just like, just like the numbers, if that could get included, that'd be very helpful. Thank you for the update.
Just to have clarity, this is Director Hewitt-Smith. So that was in the attachment of the email that was sent on January 23rd. So you want, yeah, that was. So what more do you want added to that?
Just the numbers of where they went, so like 8 to MDCR, 3 for disability, and just to like kind of see like the spread. I know we get the detailed update, but just something that would be really helpful.
This is Director Harrington. Kind of like a quick glance document would be super helpful. Any other questions, comments, observations?
I also, oh sorry, this is Director Beach. I also would recommend if we could make that document, I think that would be also a good document to be public. Just the overall numbers of the community also has the ability to see what complaints are coming in and how they're progressing and where they are going. So if we could also make that public, that would be great.
This is Director LeGrone. I have a quick question. What is CPED? I see referred to CPED for further follow-up.
This is Commissioner Hoffman. That is Community Planning Economic Development Department.
Thank you.
I do have a question in reference to the school, one that went about the school. I think that really opens up the importance of this board, because we have complaints coming from every sector almost. And so to have the authority to deal with that, or to educate, the authority and to educate about the importance of what the Civil Rights Board can do is significant. So I just wanted to, bring that up and ask, what was that complaint about?
To be as broad and vague as I can to protect identity. It revolved a high schooler who experienced some racial incidents at the school. It does not fall under our ordinance, but we're doing our best to refer it to the appropriate party.
Thank you for that.
Anything further? Okay, I had something. There was one complaint specifically about a voucher that was referred out last year. Could we have some clarification around that? Because vouchers technically should fall under us.
So for that one, I don't believe our ordinance reflected Section 8 vouchers or other rent subsidy funds during this time period. I don't have the details, but I believe this was early in the year of 2022.
Thank you. This is Director Harrington. This is why we were having the conversations we were having last year. Because the understanding and the clarification in the ordinance was not there. And so I'm hoping that we don't have any referrals out as it pertains to vouchers from here on out. So I just wanted to say that on the record. Director Calderon, you have something?
Director Calderon here. I was just wondering if there's any reason that this person wouldn't be able to submit a concern, and if that's something, I don't know if it would be appropriate for us to prompt that or not, but I honestly, and forgive me if it had been established at some point, but I don't know if we've discussed whether something can be brought back up, especially under the circumstances of it just, there was nothing clear at the time that it was originally filed. So I guess it's more of a statement / question. Thank you.
I don't see a problem with them resubmitting their complaint. That is within their right, and circumstances, like you said, with our ordinance have been updated to include rental vouchers and other forms of such.
This is Director Harrington. Thank you, Director Calderon, because yes, I 100% agree, and that's a very good, valid point. My question is now, what is the protocol and who would be the city staff person to reach out to this person? And then could we have an update once that's done?
That would be me. I'd be reaching out. I'll have to find the complaint and see their contact information and reach out to let them know they are more than welcome to reapply or resubmit their complaint.
Thank you. Anything further?
This is Director Corwin. My question is, I think for the city, upon completion of any investigation or anything like that, does the city provide documentation to the resident who filed the complaint that the case has been ceased to be worked on or it's completed?
They get both respondent and complainant receive a full investigative report that we do. They also get a final letter with recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lo. Any other questions, comments, observations?
This is Director LeGrone. Looking at this, and this is an older one, but the law enforcement complaint. And it was, the way I'm reading this, the complainant couldn't get a response from law enforcement but their allegation fell outside the jurisdiction of Chapter 18, and then they were referred back to law enforcement for further follow-up. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Was there some sort of a contact made from the city to the Department of Public Safety to reintroduce that complaint, or did this citizen just get the runaround?
I don't know details of that. I can look into it and provide the board with a detailed report on what happened after, but I don't have that information.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
This is Director Corwin. Is there any way to provide an example of maybe letters sent to citizens of the end result of their inquiries about the complaints?
So when the city attorney office completes their investigation, I get an investigative report. And when I send those letters out, it's both to respondent and complainant. They're told that there's an attachment, which is the investigative report, and that if they would like to continue, meaning if they want to do a case hearing, or they have 10 business days to respond, and I have my phone number, my email, and our address on it, so they have 3 ways to communicate with me. And within those 10 days, if I do not hear a response, then we go into what the city attorney recommends, as we don't get if we don't have a response, we don't want to push it to case hearing, because that's not our process at the moment. If they do recommend a case hearing, then we would move forward with the case hearing. But if not, then we go with the city attorney, and then we work with the city manager's office to do a final recommendation.
Upon completion of that hearing, would a documentation be sent out to both parties?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that last year, the 2 cases that we did hear, neither of those were finalized in such a manner.
All right, I'll look into that.
A question about Director Legron's point to there was a complaint about KDPS, and then they were referred back to KDPS. And my question is, do we feel like that is efficient? Because basically, if you're a person from the community and you have a concern, you're being told to go back to the very organization that you have a concern about, which is not the case with any of the other complaints. So I'm just curious, everyone's thoughts on that, and is there a reason that you all could maybe enlighten us to why that is?
This is Assistant City Attorney Marcia Jones. I don't have that particular instance in front of me, but I will work with law and look into that and see exactly what transpired. It may have been referred to someone, a captain or a chief, as opposed to a public safety officer.
This is Director Corwin. To be honest, when I heard that, man, it feels inappropriate to send somebody who experienced discrimination back to the department or the source of that discrimination. I just feel like that might be inappropriate, especially considering how some of these departments might function.
Assistant City Attorney Marcia Jones. There is an internal process with public safety to review complaints, and perhaps this person wasn't aware of that and didn't go through that channel. So again, without seeing the report, I can't speak specifically, but perhaps that is what happened and they were referred to make a formal complaint and go through the internal investigative process.
This is Director Legron. According to the complaint log, they did adhere to the administrative complaint process. They were told during that process that the complaint was too old or whatever to be investigated. So they called our office, and our office sent them back to KDPS. So I see a couple of separate and distinct issues. The first is the age-old issue of counting on an institution to police themselves, which we know has been problematic, but that's a bigger fight than we're probably prepared to have right now. My greater concern is if they are not getting any service when they follow the proper administrative channels, what recourse do they have? And should that be with this body or with the DEI department?
This is Director Beach, and I think that is I think that's a very valid point. How are we handling, and what is our body's function and purpose? And I think that's why we are working on the ordinance, and I think that as we have talked in our previous meetings, the revision of the ordinance is a lengthy process. But we have to we want to make sure, so I think having those discussions, or I think maybe pushing that down when we talk about a subcommittee to really dig deeper of what other areas and what is the board's ability and how to get that reflected in the ordinance is important, because I think we want to make sure we are being part of the city system to help hold itself accountable. And knowing that institutions cannot police themselves always in the most effective way, and recognizing that. So I would second that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, observations, requests about the complaint update? All right, hearing none. We are going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Ordinance Review Subcommittee assignment. In discussion in our last meeting, we decided to have a subcommittee that would be an extension of this body to just do a really in-depth look at the ordinance and work closely with the city attorney's office and the city DEI office to get the board's thoughts and suggestions into the revision, and to kind of lead the way with the process of, okay, these are what the next steps are. Additionally, reporting to this body, the larger body, during our meetings. So I didn't receive any emails from any of y'all saying you was gonna volunteer. So I'm voluntolding somebody. So Director LaGrone, for sure. And, okay, I fibbed. I did speak with Director Lukeman, and she said that she would. She obviously is on a little bit of a maternity break, but did say that she would like to be a part of that process. So I think we might be okay with numbers. I do have a question for the board about, we discussed briefly in the last meeting, and it wasn't an in-depth discussion, but it was brought up if this body would be okay with that subcommittee having community members on it, so non-board members. So I just want to put that question out again. Are we okay with that? Is that okay? Because we're limited with the amount of board members we can have on the committee. Director Coleman.
This is Director Coleman. Honestly, I feel like that would probably be even out better, because with 3, knowing so much and knowledge and experience is limited with 3. So yeah, I think that is a fantastic idea. I support it.
I do have a question. In our bylaws, I don't think our bylaws mention subcommittees. Attorney Jones? Yep. We're on the same wavelength. Yep.
I would just want to make sure that we are able to have community members, and then do want to make sure if we are going to have community members that would involve a somewhat of an application process or a review process to make sure there's equal access to be on that group. So that is just something I think we would want to consider, especially when talking about timelines and things like that, because we want to make sure if we were going to open up to the community, we have equal access to that opportunity.
Oh, this is Director Corwin. Yeah, I would like, if any way possible, to have representation from the community that would most likely file a complaint or be affected by this policy, probably on all sides, landlords and citizens as well, like citizen with felonies or homeless or many other factors, good representation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Law, did you have something? Nod your head one time for yes, and shake your head thrice for no.
I'll need to confirm with our city clerk regarding our bylaws with subcommittee, because I believe city commission usually does appointment for non-board members. But I don't know for sure. I need to confirm, and I'll get that back to you guys.
Okay, so we will get an update, hopefully soon, about what that process is. Obviously, it wouldn't be any different, it sounds like, than the board recruitment process, which didn't take very long. So obviously, they have to go before the city commission at the meetings, but, on our side of things, we can expedite the process to make sure that we are at least getting the names in front of the commission to appoint. So, okay.
This is Director Beach. I might recommend maybe if we consider a community survey or something that maybe could have farther reach about what is in the ordinance and how the community would like the ordinance to serve them, and having that subcommittee part of that review, whether in addition or not. But I do think having the ability to get, if we're looking for community feedback and community voice, how do we get more voices and hear more voices? So maybe that is something that we also could consider if we're looking at a revision and what we want to be in the ordinance and how we want the ordinance to serve the city of Kalamazoo.
This is Director Calderon. So I'm kind of hearing an and a both there, that we can involve people within this committee, but then also, I know we've discussed in the past having like an educational campaign, and maybe that survey that you're talking about can be part of that educational campaign. But again, I see it as kind of an and a both. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments about the subcommittee? I think these are all great ideas. The bylaws update, we will need to obviously visit. And I had a question mark next to, can we amend the bylaws as it pertains to subcommittees? I have a question about that too, like the process of amending the bylaws, so maybe it's easier for us to, if we want to convene a committee. I think this board, because of the type of work that we would like to do, we're only 7 people, right? And I think getting the community involved in the work should be a part of the fabric of who we are. So I'd love to see us have a little bit more freedom in convening subcommittees, because I feel like in the future, maybe little projects or continued education sessions. I see this board as always in the community, always educating, always advocating. That's what I see. And I think you would definitely need maybe committees to be able to do that work. You got to be able to leverage your time and your energy, and we're a volunteer board. So I definitely would like to advocate for an amendment to the bylaws to allow the board to appoint their own committees. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Anything further before we move on? We good? Okay. Moving on to item C, review of the recent revisions of Chapter 18, which you all have in front of you. I will go through, or Attorney Jones, would you like to go through the changes?
Yes, Assistant City Attorney Marcia Jones. The changes were made essentially to 18-19. The board wanted to add A, B, C, D, and E from the draft amendment that was presented by Commissioner Hoffman. So that was added, and then the other sections stayed the same. They were just re-alphabetized. No other changes were made.
So do we have any questions or comments about these revisions? These were revisions that we discussed in the previous 2 meetings, and they have been applied. So I personally think that it aligns with what we discussed. It aligns with my notes that I wrote. So I would love to hear some feedback, see if you all have questions, comments, observations about the draft that we have in front of us.
This is Director Corwin. Maybe this is my just ignorance, basically. When I see discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations in Section B, what is the complaint process for a citizen if they feel like they were subject to discrimination in employment or public accommodations? Would it be the same avenue that our housing complaints would be filed under, or would they go to a different location to file a complaint of employment discrimination? based on, let's say, like felony conviction or, I don't know.
This is Director Harrington. From my understanding of the ordinance is, our ordinance is not just a housing ordinance, it's a general civil rights ordinance. So the complaint process would be the same. It's just that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the complaints that are coming in right now, most of them are housing complaints. Is that correct?
Yes, most of the ones that we are investigating are housing in nature.
The process is the same.
The process is the same, yes.
This is Director Corwin again. Does the city attorney's office know, would that be located, like, I'm going off past memory here, but the complaint process for 18A would be on its own webpage, whereas I've not seen a complaint process for employment and public accommodations. So I'm just kind of wondering, how would a citizen locate the complaint process to begin with?
I'm sorry, could you clarify? How would one go about filing a complaint?
Correct. So if we wanted to file a complaint on ordinance 18A, let's say I was the recipient of discrimination, I would go to Kalamazoo's website, City of Kalamazoo's website, and find the Civil Rights Board and file a complaint on that website. I can bring it up and I can get back to you guys now.
This is Director Harrington. I think what Director Corwin is asking is for access clarity, right? If someone goes on the city website, is it clear that if they don't have a complaint in regards to housing, that they can still file a complaint about anything? Is that on the city website right now? Is it clear? I think that's the question.
This is Director Beach. From what I see on the city website, it describes that it is covered by Ordinance 18 and 18A, which covers all of those things. So I think that is what the ordinance covers. So I think, yeah, that's when I'm looking, it is clear that it covers all Ordinance 18 and 18A, which covers all of those things.
Yeah, from my memory, I filed a complaint a couple years ago, so this has been updated since then, so withdraw my question.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, observations, suggestions about the revision that we have before us? Going once? Going twice? Your finger looks like, go ahead.
Assistant City Attorney Marcia Jones. I would recommend that if there are comments or suggestions, that they be referred to the committee through perhaps emails to the committee members, and that can be addressed in much more detail at that time.
This is Director Corwin, actually. I come back to that question. If I go on to Kalamazoo's city website and I go to report a civil rights complaint, it states, in the city of Kalamazoo, you cannot be discriminated against for your source of income, status as survivor of domestic violence, prior arrest records. And this is in respect to housing, is what it says on the website. So what it says on the website is inconsistent with what we're saying here.
This is Director Harrington. I think we've had a lot of discussion, especially the later half of last year, with just being more intentional about who we are and what we do. I'm assuming the website just probably hasn't caught up yet, but we've provided way more clarification. And actually, my suggestion would be, I don't know if we want to wait until we're completely done with revisions and then update the website, because, I think we're continuing to refine and all that kind of stuff. So I would encourage for this body to be aware of what the public is seeing and what is being communicated in terms of who we are and what we do, to keep that updated with the movement that this board has made in the past couple of years. I just want to encourage us to remember, let's not do all this work and then not update the website. Any other questions, comments, observations? Okay, hearing none, we are going to move on to item D, which is the next steps of the ordinance revision. So per our discussion in previous meetings, and actually as Attorney Jones just reminded us that we are going to convene the subcommittee if the board does have additional questions, comments, revisions. You're going to take that to the committee, okay, from here on out. And we can send an email just as a reminder, like, okay, welcome board members, here is your subcommittee. These are the people to reach out to if you have questions, comments, revisions, ideas, or change your mind and you want to volunteer for the committee. You can contact those folks, but we would go through that committee now for further, I guess, discussion and guidance on planning as well. So I just wanted to just lift that up. Director Beach?
This is Director Beach. I would, if I could ask, maybe the first charge of the subcommittee is coming up with a if we could maybe come up with a tentative timeline, working with the city attorney's office for what we think the revision listening, if we're going to do listening sessions, and so we can kind of start with an outline or a timeline. I think that's where we start with step one. With the stub, I would think that'd be a great step for the subcommittee to start, and then we can kind of work from there. That would be my request.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about next steps? Is there anything else that you'd like to mention, Attorney Jones, about next steps?
Yes, thank you. I think what the subcommittee, one of the first charges would be to separate out the ordinance so we're not considering all parts of the ordinance at once. So the board can be able to make comments on section 18.1 to 18.5, or just as an example. So the board isn't overwhelmed, and the subcommittee with ideas coming from various parts of the ordinance would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Attorney Jones. That's an excellent suggestion. Excellent. All right, any other comments, questions, suggestions about timeline or next steps, excuse me. Okay, all right. Moving on to selection of training date. These dates were sent to us via email. Options are, good Lord, Monday, May 8th from 9 to 11 a.m., Thursday, May 18th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m., Monday, June 5th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m., and Thursday, June 29th from 9 to 11 a.m. So it's my understanding that we have to choose a date today. Is that correct? Okay. I think I only saw one comment. Was that from you, Director Calderon, saying that you couldn't do June 29th? Am I making that up? I'm making that up. Okay. Oh, yes, okay. In other words,
Stay away from the 29th.
I will be indisposed. Okay, gotcha. So not on the 29th, if we can help it. But we want you to enjoy your birthday. So if we could stick to the 8th, May 8th, May 18th, or June 5th, is there any, just throw out some dates, y'all. Which one do you prefer?
I recommend June 5th.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Director LeGrand, I second June 5th.
Okay. Any other preferences? Because if not, I'm just going to say it's June 5th. We good? All right, cool. So the training will be Monday, June 5th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Please refer to your emails where it was spelled out what we will be going over in that training. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Believe it or not, we're moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments, Law? In the gallery, are there any comments out there? Good evening, everyone. Hi.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Andrew Chapond. I represent Isaac TRHT Housing Task Force in Open Doors, Kalamazoo, and I'm a member of the community. I have 3 issues I want to address the board tonight. Actually, the first one is the Ordinance Review Committee. The last time that we were here, it was my understanding that the committee was already set to include Commissioner Lagron and also Commissioner Lookman. So I actually came today to listen to the report of the committee, and to my surprise, there is still nothing that has been done to that effect. The second issue is that the committee is actually getting itself to a point of death by committee. The issue why we wanted to have a review committee was because there had been no complaints sent yet to this committee. And the reason was to find out why that was the case. Now we hear that the committee has not even met and that there's no progress in that regard. And yet you are now proposing to have another committee on top of that one. You know, you may want to include the landlords and other people, it's fine. But I see the committee here digging its own grave by committee after committee after committee and not addressing the reason why there's been no reports sent to the committee from the manager's office, where we think people have made complaints, but they've not left that office. That was the reason why that committee was supposed to find out what is happening. The third issue I want to talk about is mission creep. I was part of the people who saw the birth of the ordinance. This committee was set up specifically to address discrimination within the housing realm. There was never any doubt at that time that this committee was part of the ordinance itself. It was something that people discussed to say we cannot have an ordinance and fail to have an enforcement arm of this ordinance. So for me to hear that is addressing job issues of discrimination, it's news to me because that was not the purpose of this committee. The committee has to address the issues of discrimination as outlined in that ordinance. That was the purpose. There's nothing wrong with adding more issues, but you have not done the basic purpose for which you were set, which was to address housing discrimination complaints as regards housing in Kalamazoo. So far, you have not dealt with a single issue, and now you are trying to go to housing and into other areas of discrimination, which are specialized in their own way and leaving this one out. So that mission creep actually may render your original purpose invalid because now you'll be involved in other issues.
Thank you.
If we have no more in-person comments, I'm going to turn on our phone. We do not have any call-ins.
Thank you. Moving on to board member comments.
This is Director Legron. First, I want to say to Brother Andrew, thank you for the reminder that we have to stay diligent in our mission. I would like to add that a civil rights board, the birth of the board and the origin of the ordinance, with all respect, is wonderful, but we also have to remember that in this community, people suffer illegal discrimination in housing and public accommodations. But I do hear you on the mission creep. I think it is our responsibility as a board to make sure that the basic tenets of that ordinance, that we don't water down the housing, we don't lose the housing component. And I don't think anybody on this board is going to let that happen. Right now, what we're trying to do is construct a holistic ordinance that will address all of the issues that people are affected by so that we can promptly respond to discrimination in all areas of activities of daily living. So I want you to know that you're heard, and I respect your comments. And I also believe that we have to protect the people of color, the people that are disabled, all the other protected class categories in their quest to provide food on their family's table, to enjoy the same entertainment that non-blacks and non-whites and able-bodied people can enjoy. So I think it all should go into the ordinance. The second thing I'd like to mention, and it's more of a request, is it possible for this body to receive the minutes and the agenda 1 week in advance of the meeting rather than the morning of? That would be really helpful.
This is Director Harrington. I just for a point of clarification, and this is in our minutes from the last meeting, it was suggested in December's meeting that we should create a subcommittee to review the revisions of the ordinance, specifically because this is a larger body, and we could take up 2-3 hours every meeting doing very tedious work. And so the whole reason why actually Director LaGrone suggested in the December meeting for us to have a subcommittee is so that we had a smaller group of us to do the tedious work and to also lead the charge with the process, because again, because of the Open Meetings Act, we can't as a group do this work offline. So it was suggested in the December meeting to specifically have a subcommittee for this process of reviewing the ordinance and having revisions and taking us through that process. So I just wanted to clarify that. Anything further?
This is Director Beach. I just would like to wish everyone a happy Black History Month on February 1st.
Amen. If there is nothing further, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, community members.